الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: المؤمن من أمنه الناس على دمائهم وأموالهم، أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. رواه النسائي. Regarding our hadaq of hadith, our dars of hadith from the book of Muntakhab Ahadith, we are in the chapter of Ikramul Muslim, honoring the rights of a Muslim. This is hadith number 167 from this chapter. This hadith is from Nasai, one of the Sahih Sitta, the six most authentic books of hadith. Sayyidina Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu, he narrates, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. He narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, Al-mu'min man aminahu nas. Al-mu'min, a believer, a true mu'min. Man aminahu nas is such a person that others are safe from him, meaning that others are safe from any kind of evil that may be within him. Ala dima'ihim wa amwalihim. Everyone is safe from him destroying their lives or their wealth. كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. In gist, it means that a mu'min, a believer, is one who, regardless of what type of emotions he may have, what type of feelings he may have, what kind of personality they may have, the quality of iman, the quality of belief in the heart is such that once that iman is in the heart, then a person will make every effort not to harm someone else, particularly harming someone's life, meaning committing murder, or taking someone's wealth, meaning involving in a haram way. So this is a very unique quality of iman, belief. Also, even the term al-mu'min, al-mu'min, when you go to the root of this term in Arabic, it also comes from aman and amana, just safety and security. So a mu'min, a believer, is one who is very careful in taking care of the security of others as well. So he also looks after their well-being, looks after their wealth and their lives, and is very, very careful with that. So this also comes with the quality of iman. This also comes with the quality of belief. We should be very, very careful in harming anyone. And that is the quality that iman has, or the effect that iman has in the life of a person. عن عبد الله بن عمرو رضي الله عنهما عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: المسلم من سلم المسلمون من لسانه ويده، والمهاجر من هاجر ما نهى الله عنه، أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. رواه البخاري. This hadith is in Sahih Bukhari. It is the next hadith in this book, Muntakhab Hadith, hadith number 168 from this chapter. This hadith is in Sahih Bukhari. Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Amr radiyallahu anhuma, he narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, Al-Muslimu man salima al-Muslimuna min lisanihi wa yadihi. Al-Muslim, a Muslim is one, man salima al-Muslimuna min lisanihi wa yadihi, that other Muslims are safe from the evil of his hands and his tongue. Wal muhajir, and a real muhajir, a real migrant is one. Man hajara ma nahallahu anhu. A real migrant, a real muhajir is one who migrates from whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden. This hadith is in Sahih Bukhari. A few major points here. One is al-Muslim. And again, the term, which is the beauty of the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Again, taking the terms back to the root term. Al-Muslim, again, from the root term, when you take salam and salama, where you take safety and security and peace. So Al-Muslim is one, man salim al-Muslimuna min lisanihi wa yadihi, that other Muslims are safe from the evil of his tongue and the evil of his hands. And this type of safety, you understand in how many ways we as human beings can destroy someone with our tongue, means with our words. How many different ways we can really destroy someone, either through backbiting, gossip, slander, spreading rumors and gossip, whatever it might be. There's so many different ways that we can harm people with our tongues, and also using foul language. There are many who build a habit of using foul and evil language, bad language. They're always either cursing or using derogatory terms, or using such terms that indicate towards harming someone's honor, harming someone's respect. A Muslim is one who doesn't do this. We should be very, very careful with what we say about others and what we say to others. There is one thing that, you may be able to repair many things in this world, but it is very difficult to repair someone's heart. Once we have broken someone's heart, especially with our words, once we have broken someone's heart, particularly someone's trust with our words, it is very, very difficult to repair that. It's very difficult to go back from that. And trust is something that once it is broken or it is lost, it is very, very difficult to rebuild that trust, to get that trust back. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a long time to get that level of trust back. That's why we have to be very, very careful what we say, who we say it to, what we say about others. We should control our tongue. In fact, it is because of the tongue, meaning it is because of gossip, backbiting, and all of the many, many sins that are committed with the tongue, that a person may even be doomed to Jahannam, to hellfire, because of one's tongue. If someone does not control their tongue, someone does not control their words, what they utter, it can really doom a person to hellfire. And also, it's not just about harming others. We should also be careful what we say. We should control our tongue. There are so many ahadith that relate to the importance of controlling one's tongue, controlling one's words. Sometimes we think something is very innocent, but it can have a very, very heavy meaning, or it can have a very, very different outcome from what we may be thinking. In this time and age, we find many, many pranks, and I'm only sharing this with you because it may be of benefit to many of us. There was a case that came to one of the scholars, one of the ulama, that there was a group of pranksters. They were pulling a prank. They were just trying to prank someone. And they didn't realize the heaviness of the statements they were making. They were youth, just talking nonsense. But because they were youth and they were also young adults, in Islam, that still makes a person responsible. Once you reach over the age of maturity or puberty, now you become responsible for your actions. And this was during the Christmas time. Some of them went out and got a tree, put some gifts, and then as a prank, as a joke, they were going around telling their parents that, na'udhu billah, that we're Christians and we're celebrating Christmas. Na'udhu billah, wa'iyadhu billah. So this was the kind of the thing that they were saying. That case, one of the parents came and brought it to the ulama and the scholars. They were like, the youth, we understand little children are children, but these are youth. The young adults, they know what they're saying, college kids. They know what they're saying. And they understand the consequences, like their words. They later on said, no, we're just a prank. We're joking around. We're real Muslim. We're not But the effect of saying such things, and the scholar even made it very, very clear, the Maulana, the Shaykh, he made it very clear to them that, listen, there are some words that you should never ever prank with or joke about. Because even the words of the Quran are very, very clear. Man kafara billah, whosoever disbelieves in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with their words, that is enough to render a person into the world of kufr or disbelief. You should never ever claim that you are other than a Muslim. You should never ever claim this. إِلَّا مَنْ أُكْرِهَ وَقَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ بِالْإِسْلَامِ or bil iman, as the ayah in the Quran comes, except if someone is forced, where someone's life is in danger, to the point where it's either they die or they have to utter some words of disbelief. But deep down inside, the person is still a mu'min or believer. Only in that scenario, when someone's life is in danger, is someone given some permission to utter words of kufr. Otherwise, even that, a real Muslim or a real believer would even be very, very careful in that scenario to say something like this, let alone being some kind of prank or some joke. I mean, if you want to prank or you want to joke, there's so many other ways to have fun. But you should never ever utter some things that you have either changed your religion or you're following some other religion in any way. Otherwise, that can be very, very dangerous against a person. So this is also part of the words that someone may utter. You may think something is very light, but it can be very, very heavy in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is why we're always encouraged to renew our iman, to always say La ilaha illallah, repeat the kalima. La ilaha illallah as often and frequently as possible. Sometimes we don't realize, we don't know. And there's always been the habit of our elders and mashayikh and ulama, they always encourage us that get in the habit of doing the dhikr, La ilaha illallah. At least at the end of the day, it's very, very helpful. Because you don't know what you have uttered throughout the day. Maybe you have uttered something or you have said something that has put you on almost the brink of disbelief. So with the dhikr of this kalima, La ilaha illallah, renewing and refreshing your iman and your Islam, at least you will go to sleep in a state of Islam and iman. You should be very, very careful in what state we go to sleep. We should be very, very careful in what condition we are throughout our day and our nights. We don't know in what condition and what time we'll be called back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then we have to render an account for our words and our actions. Remember, what we utter, we're responsible for. What we act on, we're responsible for. So we should be very, very careful with our tongues. Be very, very careful with our words. And again, also in relation to taking care of others' feelings, taking care of others' trusts. Many a time someone trusts us, either a close family member or a very close friend. They tell us something, and it is understood that this should be kept secret. And we end up going out and telling others about this. We have already gone over the Hadeeth of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam that in any gathering when something is mentioned, it is considered an amana, it is considered a trust, which means you should automatically take it as a secret, unless the person who told you ends up telling others and telling you that, yeah, you can spread this or you can say this, it's okay. But we should always assume that what we've been told is an amana, it is a trust. We should not share it with anyone if we don't need to. And again, in that hadith, there are particular categories that were mentioned with which you are allowed to share that information. So we should be very, very careful, because what happens is when someone trusts us and we breach that trust, we break that trust, that person will never trust us again. And rather, we end up harming our own position in the eyes of many. It can be a source of one's own disgrace. And that person may go about telling everyone that this particular individual, I trusted them, they broke my trust, they're not trustworthy. Never trust this person again. So we should be very, very careful in spreading someone's trust, spreading someone's secrets, spreading any kind of information. Also, if we're given a piece of information, we should try and verify. We should make an attempt, a genuine effort to try and verify if some information is true before we go about spreading it. Many a times it happens, especially with the widespread use of social media and all of these other avenues, Many times information is shared that is not verified. We've been told in a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, كفى بالمرء كذبا أو كذبا أن يحدث بكل ما سمع. وكما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام, that it is sufficient or considered as a lie, or a person may be considered a liar if they spread something without verifying it. So we should be very, very careful what we spread. If we just hear something, make sure you verify it. Sometimes we end up hearing something from someone about an individual that is not there. We don't even know the whole story. We only hear a snippet of the story. But because we want to feel that we should be given attention in a group, or we want to get the attention of others, we end up spreading that information about a third party that we haven't even verified, we haven't even contacted the person on what really happened. We're not aware of the situation. We were not there. We don't know what happened. But we are given some piece of information, we go about spreading it. Later on, when the information becomes clear to us, we realize what we spread was even a lie, or it was the wrong information. But we don't know how far that information has spread. And many a times this is done to defame someone or to spread gossip. So we should be very, very careful with these kind of things. And there are major sins associated with this. One is ghiba and one is buhtan. We should understand the difference between the two. Ghiba is backbiting. And backbiting is when you say something about someone that is true, but they're not there. They're not there to defend themselves. They're not there to clarify what we are saying about them. This is called backbiting. We're familiar about what backbiting is. But that condition is that it is true. That is considered ghiba, that is backbiting. It's a major sin. In the ayat of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that وَلَا يَغْتَبْ بَعْضُكُمْ بَعْضًا أَيُحِبُّ أَحَدُكُمْ أَنْ يَأْكُلَ لَحْمَ أَخِيهِ مَيْتًا فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ. Do not backbite one another. Would any of you like to eat the flesh of your dead brother? فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ. You would dislike this. It's as if somebody brings us a dead corpse and we're eating the flesh. What can a dead corpse do? A dead corpse cannot even stop others from eating the flesh. First of all, that's one thing. It cannot defend itself. And also eating that, it's rotten, it's dead corpse. It is very nasty, has foul smell, it's terrible. We don't eat, we should not be cannibals. And it can even kill a person. So this is what ghiba is, this is what backbiting is. But it is true. If we're telling the truth about someone, that is known as backbiting. There's another term, buhtan, where we end up throwing accusations. Where we say something about someone that is a lie, it's not even true. But we still say it about that person, and they don't even have an opportunity to defend themselves. Very much like backbiting, except what we're saying, the only difference is we're saying something about someone behind their back, but we're spreading a lie about them. This is buhtan. You're throwing accusations, you're spreading gossip. And that is far worse, much, much worse than backbiting. There are many hadith, particular hadith related to the severity of such an accusation. Depending on the level of the accusation, even an Islamic court can end up putting out a punishment for those who are spreading such accusations. And there are particular scenarios. If a righteous, pious woman is being accused of fornicating or committing adultery, and there's no proof or evidence, and that is a clear lie. Now you're trying to defame a righteous woman. So for that, and again, this also applies to a man, if there's this type of accusation is being thrown around, there's no evidence whatsoever. No one is able to prove it. It is very clear that the person who's being accused is actually innocent. And the Islamic court that is in place, a Muslim court, will get together and will investigate. And after the investigation is done and it is made clear that this is nothing more than buhtan, nothing more than slander that is being thrown around, then, and the individual that is being slandered is actually innocent, then the Islamic court can even put out a punishment for those who are spreading such slander. And the ayat of the Quran, it is mentioned that they should be lashed 80 times. In Surah An-Nur, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions very, very clearly that those who accuse righteous women and they don't have witnesses, they don't have the adequate proof, but they're just spreading such slander, then فَجْلِدُوهُمْ ثَمَانِينَ جَلْدًا وَلَا تَقْبَلُوا لَهُمْ شَهَادَةً أَبَدًا. They should be lashed 80 times, public lashing, and their witness should never be accepted ever again, meaning that they lose all credibility. But again, this will be done under an Islamic court. In the Islamic court, there will be a group of mufti, those who are qualified in Islamic jurisprudence under a judge, an Islamic Muslim qadi, under a judge, and then there'll be investigation done. There's a whole process to it. There's no such thing as a vigilante system and someone just from their own side metes out such punishment. It's not allowed in Islam. But I'm just sharing with you that this is how dangerous slander can be. If you do not have an Islamic court, then the punishment is in the hereafter. And the punishment for slander, in some of the Hadeeth, we're told it is 30 times worse than even backbiting, a ghiba. And some Hadith mention even more than that. So very, very severe punishments for spreading slander, spreading gossip. And that is if something is not true. So both, in either way, we should be very, very careful what we spread about someone else without verifying. And even if we verify, we should be very careful to defame anyone. Even if we know some information to be true, why are we spreading it? Yes, we can give it to people who are qualified to get involved and to help in some way, but it should not be made public information for the community. And we should not just be telling every random person that we meet. Such information should be very, very careful what we spread. So this is also the qualities of a Muslim, the qualities of a mu'min, a believer, that they're very careful that someone does not get harmed with their words, what they spread about them, what they say about them, what they may end up. The consequences of words can turn out to be very, very serious. So we should be very, very careful. This is the aspect of the tongue. The next aspect is wayadihi, and his hands. A Muslim is one who other man salim al-muslimuna min lisanihi wayadihi. The Muslims are safe from the evil effects of their tongues and their hands. These hands, again, what is meant by hands is one's actions. We should be very, very careful in hurting others with our actions. And this is what hands means. It is not just necessary. Yes, there is the obvious meaning, harming someone with our hands, using brutal force to hurt someone. Most extreme form is obviously taking someone's life. But even harming someone with our hands, causing bodily harm unnecessarily, and these things are obviously a Muslim should never ever cause harm to others. But there's also the implication of our actions. Sometimes we do something that ends up harming someone else. We should be careful with our actions. It may be in a scenario where someone is looking for a job and they cannot find a job, and they finally apply to a job, and we know that this person, if he applies to this job, he'll get it. We already have a good job, but just to stop the other person from getting the job, we also apply, with the intention that we get accepted so the other person cannot get this job. There are many, many scenarios like this. Out of hatred, out of jealousy, with our actions, we're harming someone else. So this is also part of harming someone with our hands, harming someone with our actions. Sometimes in business, this also happens. People go out to get an investor. They present their product to the investor. Someone else comes and in the middle takes the investor on a different route and ends up taking the investor with their money to their side, so that this particular individual who has this business idea and can gain benefit is not able to get the investments for their business. We should be very, very careful doing such a thing to harm someone else. And there are many, 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 many other scenarios in which our actions can become a means of harming someone else. And this many a times leads to hatred, it stems from jealousy, and it can lead to many, many other issues in life. Sometimes we think we're very cunning. We think we're very smart. But remember one thing, in reality, we're not harming anyone but ourselves. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us many, many warnings in the Quran. In Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the munafiqeen or the hypocrites. يُخَادِعُونَ اللَّهَ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَمَا يَخْدَعُونَ إِلَّا أَنفُسَهُمْ وَمَا يَشْعُرُونَ. They try, or the munafiqeen, hypocrites, they think that they're deceiving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or in some way they're deceiving the believers. وَمَا يَخْدَعُونَ إِلَّا أَنفُسَهُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says these hypocrites, they're not deceiving anyone but themselves. Because on the day of judgment, they'll have to face their actions. Another example Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives in the Quran, again in Surah Al-Baqarah, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَسْتَحِيَّ أَن يَضْرِبَ مَثَلًا مَا بَعُوضَةً فَمَا فَوْقَهَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not ashamed to give you the example of a mosquito or that which lives on top of it. There's a particular parasite known as the midge. It actually lives in certain parts of the world. It lives on top of a mosquito and it sucks the blood or the life out of a mosquito. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us this example after the mentioning in detail the qualities of the hypocrites or munafiqeen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save all of us. But indirectly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us the message that yes, the hypocrite or the munafiq, his example is like that of a mosquito. And this can also apply to anyone who may have that level of jealousy or hatred to go about harming others. The example is like a mosquito. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created a parasite that sucks the blood out of the mosquito and also sucks the life out of a mosquito. Which means that there is destiny and qadr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created destiny, has created time. And the reality of those that go about performing such acts, harming others, eventually those actions will catch up with this individual and will destroy the life of such an individual. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save all of us. But that is why in most languages, in most cultures, we have these phrases, what goes around comes around. Kama tudinu tudan, as they say in Arabic, what you do, you reap what you sow. Well, you know, what will happen to you, whatever you do. Basically, whatever you do will come around and happen to you. Your own actions will bite you. There are so many phrases in so many languages, in so many cultures that have this particular message. For those who go about trying to harm others, eventually, if not right away, eventually a time will come where their own actions will come around and bite them and destroy them. That is the system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created in this world. This world belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He will deal with whoever He wants, however He wants. We should be very, very careful with our actions. We should be very careful with our words. We should be very, very careful with our actions. Otherwise, as cunning as we think we might be, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring such conditions that all our cunning will end up destroying us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us and protect us. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give all of us a tawfiq to practice His deen. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغِ.